right, here we go. Welcome back into another episode of Where the Game Lives On, the official podcast of the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. It is Hump Day, day of release, April 17th, 2024. We called a little audible, I guess. We've got the backup QB, as I like to say, Taylor Frederich, joining us today. I'm your host, Noah Tucker, but Taylor, how are we, sir?
We're fantastic, and sometimes they say that a backup quarterback is the best job in all of sports, so I will gladly take on that role. But hey, all is well this morning.
Love it. Little Hump Day action, new episodes every Wednesday as always. What's your favorite day of the week?
Ooh. I guess, are we talking work week? No,
you can include
Saturdays?
You can include the weekend if it's an obvious answer for you.
Yeah. There's sometimes there's a negative connotation in some ways towards Sunday, right? The Sunday scaries, can kind of be a thing. But, I've always liked, a Sunday, especially if I don't have anything going on. So we're going to go
relaxing Sunday.
Yeah, relaxing Sunday.
I'm kind of a big Friday guy. I really think that I think I enjoy the anticipation of the weekend more than the weekend itself.
There you go.
Yeah. Because once it's here, then it's gone.
Very quickly, always.
So the weekend always goes quick. So I feel like, especially in like adulthood, I've like kind of realized, I don't know, I think I like just the buildup of the weekend more, because then it's here and it's gone and you're back to Monday. And I don't think anybody is saying Monday's their favorite day of the work week.
Never.
You recently went to the Final Four, though. You represented the Hall of Fame there, hosted a breakfast that we have with the Missouri Basketball Coaches Association. How was the Final Four?
It was really good. This is my third trip to the Final Four, fortunately, with the Hall of Fame. So I've been down there now 3 times, but this year was in Phoenix. Great venue for the Final Four. The stadium is perfect for it. Everything went really well with the breakfast. We had 50, 60 representatives of Missouri coaches, whether it be at the university level, some at the high school level, some just affiliated either with the Hall of Fame or just, the Missouri Basketball Coaches Association as well. So great breakfast. It's just a great time for coaches to get down there to collaborate. Again, get new ideas. A lot of people, times are looking for jobs potentially with some coaching turnovers. And really it's kind of like a who's who of where we go and where we get to stay. I rode the elevator with Bruce Pearl, just going up to, growing up to the room. So, again, you see all kinds of people. Byron, I believe, saw Roy Williams, who again was just at one of our events not too long ago. So, again, it's kind of a who's who of who you get to see down there. And that's kind of the cherry on top to obviously getting to see some basketball, as well. So
yeah,
congrats to UConn. They are, dominant. So
yeah, I gave my opinions on them last week. Be sure to go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. I think they were one of, if not the best teams in college basketball a year. I think that kind of was proven through the tournament. Every single win, double-digit win. And then, you get Purdue in the championship, and they played like a defending title team, and they go back to back. So
we'll see what the future holds for them. We'll have, to bring it kind of back to Missouri relevancy. We've got a Kansas City Chiefs situation on our hands, right? They're trying for a three-peat just like the Chiefs are. So again, I didn't see Hurley leaving for that exact reason that I didn't see Andy Reid leaving this year. You're chasing, something that's never been done in terms of the football side of it. Obviously, basketball is a little bit different with UCLA back in the day, but congratulations to them. It was a great tournament, great time out in Phoenix as well.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on college basketball last week, so we'll be quick here, but we're flirting around the question of the day, and this is more of a Byron question, being that he's a Wildcats fan. Which men's basketball team, though, has a better record next season, Kentucky or Arkansas?
I guess just in terms of blue blood history, I'll lean Kentucky just because they have that. But who knows? Obviously, that game is, the Kentucky Arkansas game is going to be circled on a lot of people's calendars next season. I'll go. But hey, some of the press conferences, that Mark Pope got on Sunday this past. I mean, gosh, getting off the bus with the national championship team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
Really cool.
at some point, I feel like they really turned the tides with him because, in some ways, the internet world was not exactly thrilled, I would say, with the hire initially. And then I feel like the tides kind of turned, and I feel like he's got, Wildcat Nation excited for what's to come. But to answer the question, I'm going to go Kentucky, especially because Arkansas doesn't even have a roster right now. And not that Kentucky has much of one either.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was going to mention, though. Yeah. And we're obviously making way too early predictions here because like Arkansas, I think, has 2 guys on their basketball roster right now. So you're basing it entirely off of coaches.
Yeah, exactly.
But I genuinely think in a 1-year turnaround, that Arkansas may have a better season next year just because of the Calipari effect and him being able to possibly bring in some big time recruits. But down the road, yes, I think Pope might be able to really solidify himself. Obviously, he's got the history with Kentucky on a national championship team there, but he's making a jump, right? He's probably been used to recruiting West Coast at BYU, doing that for a few years, et cetera. And so I think it's going to be just a little bit of not slow down in retrospect, but in terms of a Kentucky standard, maybe. It may take them a while to get them to where they want to be, but I think in the long term, we'll see. Probably could be a good hire. Obviously, he's very prideful of that university and wants to see him win. So.
Absolutely. And, hey, I'll be excited to see what Cal can bring to Arkansas as well. Again, if he can bring, not saying that Arkansas is going to now all of a sudden be a blue blood or a top program, but again, he does, he's got kind of the charisma, I guess, to be able to take a program that is kind of a in-betweener, kind of a tiered program in terms of, hey, you might be on this third tier of college basketball teams, and he might be able to kind of bring them up to that second tier of constantly top 15, type of program. But we'll see. I wish him nothing but the best. But, it shakes up college basketball, which, hey, everybody in some ways, I'm sitting here saying this with UConn winning back-to-back, but everybody does love a little parity. Outside of them, it's kind of been
mixed bag,
with the Final Four, and some of your blue bloods have been there in the past 3 years, and some of them not. Your San Diego States of the world, are kind of in there as well. So, anytime the change in college basketball can rattle, really and that's the one thing. Whenever we were out in Phoenix, this news broke about Calipari, happened, taking the Arkansas job on like Sunday, in between, or maybe even Saturday. I don't even remember exactly, but in some ways, it was kind of overshadowing the Final Four. And, I think Coach Cal said, hey, I was not going to come out and make a statement before the national championship was over out of respect for the tournament. But again, it was a large enough coaching hire that it did. It impacted everybody's, thought process of, hey, maybe not focusing on the right now, but, look ahead of what we have to look forward to next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last little remark on Arkansas. Obviously, historically a baseball school. I think this move is enough to kind of shift the hype around that campus in Fayetteville. A lot of different things that make him a really good coach, but I think John, above all, is a really good recruiter. And that's half the battle, is just getting the Jimmies and Joes in. So we'll see how it goes for them. We'll see how it goes for Kentucky. And obviously going to be an interesting season next fall, next winter, with 2-time defending national champion coming back, and then everybody trying to dethrone them and stuff. But we'll go ahead and we'll jump forward to this past weekend. What about you? Did you watch any Masters action?
I did, tuned in whenever I could. But, that's one of the tournaments that I feel like is a must watch. If it's not me necessarily paying attention to it at home with kids and whatnot, it's on. It's either on my phone or on the TV. So I tuned in whenever I could. I tuned in basically all day for the broadcast on Sunday. The CBS thing showed the Tiger 2019 Masters deal at 1:00 before the broadcast started, which was awesome to watch. And then I tuned in all day, and the tear that Scottie has been on over the the past 3 or 4 months and has been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, before I get to Scottie real quick, want to mention one guy who was in Springfield last July, Jake Knapp.
Yep.
He just got his tour card. He's been pretty consistent. I think he's been making some waves with his swing. A lot of people really, really love his swing, but he made the cut at the Masters, got paid there. I think he finished T7 at the Price Cutter last July. Had a solid year though on the Corn Ferry Tour.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I think that I mentioned at one time, even on the podcast, is that's what's fun about, keeping an eye on the PGA Tour, is seeing these guys who, competed in Springfield and watching them with a rooting interest. Again, it's one thing to just root for a player, but to root for somebody who, has played in your backyard, who's been a part of your tournament, who's in a way helps your community through the efforts of the Price Cutter event. It's fun to watch. So always keep an eye out for those guys and always root for them.
Absolutely. The Price Cutter Charity Championship raised over $1 million for local charity this past year. Looking to do that again. We are getting the ball rolling quite a bit on Price Cutter Charity Championship stuff. That will be returning to Springfield July 18th through the 21st. So keep an eye out for that. We've also got several pro-ams going on. Again, help benefit the tournament, but more so the charities involved when that comes around later this summer. Getting back to Scottie, though, my goodness, the guy shot a 4-under 68 on Sunday, ended up winning by that many strokes, finishing 11 under par. I mean, you look at the unorthodox swing, I guess, and it doesn't even equate, really. I mean, the guy has minimal hiccups, and now he's got several wins under his belt already this year. Everybody wants to make the Tiger comparison. They do, I don't know if he's going to be to that point, and that's a astronomical standard to try and uphold. But with the current state of PGA and Live and everybody kind of looking for that next big guy to kind of step into that Tiger role, I guess. What do you think the future holds for him now?
Well, it's funny. Again, I'm a longtime golf fan, and hey, I remember, back 10 years ago in 2015, whenever we were talking about Jordan Spieth being the next guy. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, he rattles off several, couple majors in a row. At one time there, I think at one time he might've won 2 in a row, in the same calendar year. And really, so, I mean, you kind of had the ability, he chokes at the Masters as, he hits 2 in the water on 12, like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So again, I remember those kind of comparisons. Rory McIlroy, whenever he was young, right? Yeah. Everybody was kind of making those things. So I say that saying that that Scottie's got a long ways to go. This was major number 2 for him is all. So now with that being said, in terms of, yes, comparison, 2 majors, it's not even in the same hemisphere as Tiger's 15. With that being said, I don't know if we've seen somebody be as dominant on the golf course as we have seen since kind of that early 2000s Tiger. Yeah. I mean, he is completely dominating the field, limiting mistakes. That's what they say a lot of times on tour. It's not necessarily about going out there and making 6 or 7 birdies in a round. It's not making bogeys and limiting some of those doubles that that can happen. And any time that somebody kind of pushed Scottie, it seemed he responded. Whether it was Ludwig who would go out there and birdie, next hole, whether Scottie heard the roars, whether he knew about it, whether he knew where he was. It seemed like he responded. And again, he's playing very, very smart golf. Again, just limiting mistakes. So he continues to do that. He continues to get better with the putter. There's no telling. I follow some people on Twitter who are talking about, is this of course, way too early. The guy's just won, the first major of the year, but people are already talking about, does he have the ability to run the board this year in majors? And obviously that would be a heck of a feat, but hey, he's playing incredibly well. You said about his unorthodox swing. I'm sure people throughout his career tried to tell him, man, you've got to do something with that footwork. And, whether he told them no or whatever version of that it was, it's continued to work for him. So kudos to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the future is bright, right? It could go anywhere. But when you try to make that kind of comparison to Tiger, I think what he did this past weekend exemplifies what it's going to take. And I think that's just simply longevity. I think he won this past weekend because he put together the 4 best rounds he could. Like you compare it to DeChambeau, and he shot 6, 7 under the first day and then kind of faded out the rest of the weekend. But that's what you're going to have to see from him for a long time. I've seen the stat, and I'm sure you have too, that for him to kind of meet a mark of Tiger's in terms of world number 1, he'll have to be the world number 1 till like 2033.
It's incredible. I mean, so and then, again, on the topic of Tiger and just really how dominant he's been, and, sitting there and making comparisons in some way is, was it 24 or 25 straight cuts at Augusta that Tiger has made? I mean, so like that is,
and he got last place, but he made the cut,
so it's just like, hey, it's one of those things that the sustained success. And again, Tiger after his round sits there and talks about, hey, I got to get over to Valhalla. I got to get over to, these places because he is planning on playing those majors this year, which, hey, that's what, whatever side of the fence you're on in terms of the tours, live, PGA, whatever, the majors are always going to move the needle. And especially whenever you have Tiger in the field, it just it's again kind of must watch TV whenever he's out there on the weekend.
Tiger is really good for golf.
Yes,
he was completely out of it on Sunday, and yet he still has an entire gallery that follows him. And his entire last 18, which was basically just what I would call a pony round, right?
Sure.
He's just going out there trotting around, just hitting the ball, and not to take anything away, but he wasn't anywhere close to contention.
No, not at all. And something that also came out of Augusta this past weekend is it sounds like, and again, this is not official, but it sounds like Tiger could be the United States Ryder Cup captain in 2025, which that would be special to have him kind of leading the charge. So hope that happens. I think that'd be kind of a fun thing to watch.
Yeah, but with how Tiger is good for golf, and with him undoubtedly being on the back end of his career, who knows how much longer he's going to be able to play at a competitive level. I think it will be good for golf for them to have a Scheffler or somebody of the likes, if somebody else is to step up, to kind of be the front runner, I guess, to draw people in. I mean, like you talk about Rory. Yeah, there was that period where he was that guy. And now the only conversation you ever hear about him is, can he finish the Grand Slam? Can he finish the Grand Slam? Well, I don't think so. There's too much pressure to finish the last piece of it. And it's like, oh, you have this one tournament every year where can you get it done? And yet he's not, pulling in wins anywhere else.
It's going to get harder.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, not saying that by no means saying that the Rorys and the Spieths are the quote unquote the old guys on tour because they're not, but each year that goes by, right, they get a little bit older, and there are people coming up that are a little bit younger, a little bit more spry, might be able to hit the ball a little bit further. Things have just, they're just becoming more. It's becoming more difficult to win, right? I mean, you're seeing even at our, at the Corn Ferry Tour level, you're seeing how incredible these golfers are, right? And I mean, so. Just, the level of competition is only going to go up for some of these guys that have unfortunately either not won a major yet or are trying to put some cherries on top of majors, in terms of their career. But, I hope to see those guys win. I hope to see Rory, I hope to see Rory complete it. I like seeing the likes of JT and some of those PGA superstars winning. But it's also fun to see some of these young kids, the Ludwig Egbergs, and some of these young naps, some of the young studs that are going to be out here and going to be on tour for a long, long time. I'd say that Ludwig's got a heck of a career ahead of him based on what he did in his first major appearance ever. So.
Yeah. I know it's a really good point on your end in terms of there's always guys waiting in the wing.
Always.
Because for all the Abergs that we see and all the naps that we see, there's tons of guys that we see come out here in July and they dominate. And then it's hard to find your footing once you move up to the next level. A lot of guys that get their tour card, in the fall, and then the Masters comes around and they're not even, they're nowhere to be seen. They're playing in a different event or whatever it may be, because you have to remember at that point, you're competing against the best 100, 150 golfers in the world. And that is such elite company. It speaks to Scheffler a lot more too, just to be able to be that dominant piece.
And, and that's another, he won didn't he win the Players this year? I think he's won, the Players and the Masters, I believe. Couple wins regardless, but I think even on one that, if I don't remember what event it was, but I feel like he did something on it wasn't on Sunday, but maybe it was like a Friday or a Saturday. He ended his round with like a double bogey on 18 or something, still made the cut, and then ended up losing the tournament by like one stroke. So that little, again, everybody can go back and put it under a microscope and say, hey, this is the one hole that caused it. Yeah. But my point, I guess, in that is, even outside of the wins, he is putting himself in a position to win, regardless, of mistakes. So I think it's pretty special, what he's got going on. I'm happy for him that he got to finish the tournament and not have to withdraw or leave for going to be with his wife and first baby.
Yeah.
That was good for him. My mom texted me afterwards and she was like, hope that Scottie and Meredith take pictures of the newborn in the green jacket. So I'm sure that will probably be a thing that we'll see once baby's born. So.
Yeah. What an exciting time for him though, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's hitting on all cylinders, both personally and professionally. So good for Scottie.
We'll switch gears here. I don't know if any of our regular listeners are fans of the UFC. Another big event, though, that happened this past weekend, UFC 300. I don't know what they call that, if they call it a centennial or whatever, but it was perhaps, in my opinion, the best card in the history of the UFC. It was a really, really good fight night. The one fight that I have here that I wanted to highlight, you and I talked about it on Monday, Max Holloway, performance of the night, fight of the night. Goes 5 rounds with Justin Gaethje and actually knocks him out with like a buzzer beater, 1 second left, 5th round. Like the dude points to the middle of the ring and is like, let's just duke it out. And then he just KO'd him. But I know you're not as big of a UFC guy, but you said you're getting into it a little bit more.
Yeah. Really just kind of within like the last 6 months, honestly, have kind of been keeping an eye on it a little bit more. Was fully aware of how stacked the UFC card was this past weekend. And again, just loosely being a fan, you can scroll through the fight card and simply look at the records of the individuals who are fighting each other, whether that be, men and women, both of them. So yeah, it was a completely stacked card. But those are the kind of things, and the fights like that, cards like that I think do a really good job of getting your common, your very loose common fan, somebody like myself, really more in tune, more interested, in the fight game. And anytime you have, perennial matchups like that, that kind of happen, really, even in the undercard, seemingly, even the freebies, right, that everybody was getting to watch before you had to pay to watch. It seemed like even those undercard fights were really good. So, again, that's, I think I even mentioned it, several times ago, but talk about a sport that its trajectory is on the rise. And man, it's not slowing down.
No.
Dana White's got a good thing going, and to be able to create some of the characters and everything that are kind of around the game right now. I think that some of the future lineups, fight wise, could be really good. Who came out of that? Is there any fights that are going to be a result of, like, is Max going to fight somebody in a result of the Gaethje fight, or
it's still to be determined. The big fight that Dana announced that night was McGregor's coming back on June 29th, and that's going to be his return. He's fighting Michael Chandler, who has been begging to fight McGregor for a while, but he's obviously been on the mend and stuff. So that one will be, a sellout event. But I think you're totally right in terms of, the UFC and its trajectory. Obviously, the comparison's always to boxing.
Right.
But I think that the UFC is doing a really good job of creating the lore, I guess, the storylines around their fighters that's really getting people invested. And it's the stories like the guys like Max Holloway that really help amplify that. I looked back at some of his fight history. He's fought McGregor. He's fought Dustin Poirier twice, two of the biggest names in the sport right now. The guy has never been knocked down. He went, I don't know if it was a 5-round. It might've been a 3-round fight with McGregor, but McGregor didn't knock him out, so whenever you get to see those guys come up on the rise and really defend, their record and start winning belts, I think you're right. I think being able to attach yourself to those storylines is what brings, new fans to the sport. So it'll be interesting to see where that, league, I guess, if whatever you want to call it, continues to go in the future. But I definitely think it's growing at a very, very rapid pace.
We'll be keeping an eye on it. I mean, I don't know when 301 is, but it's at least, piqued my interest and has my attention.
Yeah. I've always tried to look and see, like, are there Missouri ties? Do we have some Missouri fighters? I know Ben Askren was in there for a while, but
Tyron Woodley, isn't he one? Woodley,
he might be.
He's a Mizzou guy as well.
Okay.
There's a couple of them. And I think that you kind of see that, from time to time, some collegiate wrestlers, kind of go that UFC path. And I can't remember who it was. And again, this is completely out of left field here. There was somebody, an area wrestler, who had pretty good success. I don't remember what school it was here in Southwest Missouri, but I remember listening to an interview with him. I think he was a multiple time. I think it was the Nixa kid, the Fugit kid.
Oh, really?
Possibly. I believe. I think that he at one time was possibly looking at doing it. But anyway, it's fun to see. Obviously, anybody with Missouri, have success, and anybody with ties to Mizzou or again just Missouri will always have rooting interest in those guys.
Absolutely. We'll keep it rolling here. We want to touch on some MLB storylines. Baseball's back. It's still very early. Cardinals currently last in the division. They're out in Oakland right now. That's where you kind of hope for a sweep. But the Royals, surprising a lot of people, they're 10-6 to start the season. That might actually have changed. But my goodness, Bobby Witt Jr., have you seen what he's doing?
I'll tell you what, they're playing solid pretty solid baseball in comparison to, our Redbirds, but they good for the Royals. I think they're White Sox right now in the series with them. So again, you always hope for nothing but the best for the Royals, and especially, with kind of question marks regarding where home is.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that, but yes, you're right. You're right.
So again, we want nothing but the best for them, but always good to kind of have baseball back in action. Kind of signifies obviously the turn into spring, summer, and it's among us. So no shortage of baseball games to watch. Seems like there's of course always always games on, but I want nothing but positive things for the Cardinals and the Royals moving forward this year.
Yeah, Bobby Witt, back on him real quick. He's 23 years old. Granted, now remember, he was a top 5 prospect at one point when he was coming up. He's hitting above 350 so far this season. He's got 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 3 stolen bases. It's early, but he definitely is a guy that you would want leading your franchise. I think he's really, really, really solid. Obviously, young talent. I think I said it last week, and I'll stand by it probably the entire summer. Both Cardinals and Royals are in the same boat in the sense that I think their best bet is the fact that they're in very wide open divisions. The AL and NL Central are both, anybody could take them, right? Yep. It's not like the AL East where, well, let's see who can keep up with the Yankees, or the NL West where it's like, the Dodgers might win 120 games. But I think that's what they've got going for them is they're going to be in divisions where 90 games, 88 games, first person to that mark might be able to win the division. So we'll see. I'd love to see 2 Missouri teams, in the playoffs come the fall. So
and not to say, not to leave Kansas City out of this, but St. Louis is such a fun time whenever playoff baseball, is there in, the September, October, whatever it is. So, again, we want the best, for them. And, didn't Bobby sign? Did he sign an extension?
That might be right.
Yeah, I think that he signed. So again, that, speaking of somebody kind of leading the clubhouse and I'm kind of being here for a while. That's somebody who's got, those kind of numbers, in the stat book. Again, you want those type of guys locked into your franchise for as long as possible.
Yeah, signed a franchise record extension, 11-year, $288 million.
Yeah, so he's there. So again, you said there he's, you said what, he's 22, 23 years old. So, you've got him, you've pretty well said that you want to lock him up for, the prime of his career. And, hopefully they can put some pieces around him to, again, kind of get Kansas City back to chasing some pennants and, hopefully having some more success on the diamond.
And you talk about playoff atmosphere in St. Louis. Excluding the Oakland A's, name a better thing for the Royals right now with them wanting to move to a new stadium, possibly new location, getting that sort of kind of, build up and really like fan buy-in around a playoff run. There wouldn't be a better thing for them right now. So it's early, it's a marathon in baseball, not a sprint, but some promise early in the season for them. So,
and obviously one thing that, you talk about it being early, and it is, and with earliness in the season, you want to prohibit injury, right? That's one thing that can always happen, can derail a season, whether it be pitching, hitting, or what have you. That can totally derail a season. So hopefully all those key parts stay healthy for both our Missouri teams, and they have a good summer.
Yeah, speaking of injuries, we're not even going to have time to get to it. We've got to talk about the injuries among pitchers right now in the MLB. I would say besides the Ohtani stuff going on right now, that's definitely the biggest topic among Major League Baseball right now. We'll have to save that for a later episode. We have all kinds of things. We've got some wide receiver situations in Kansas City that we didn't get to. There's an absolute stud both on the football field and in the throwing pit here in Missouri, who he set a national record this year for the shot put. Topics we'll have to save for a later episode. There's some teasers for you. But yeah, we've come to the end of our time. We like to keep it nice and short and sweet here. We appreciate you joining us, though. New episodes every Wednesday, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Leave us a review, share it with your friends. We appreciate all of our viewership. Be sure to follow us on social media as well. Stay up to everything that's going on with the Hall of Fame, as well as the Price Cutter Charity Championship. Again, those dates, July 18th through the 21st. It'll be here before you know it. Mr. Frederick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We got here quick. I was like, holy cow, we're already through our time.
We're just having a little fun in here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But thank you so much again for joining us. We'll see you next time on another episode of Where the Game Lives On.